handful of our deployments will be visible today. However, we do expect to have telemetry and hear audio confirmation over the nets when in range of ground stations. To see a full list of today's deployments, head over to Starlink or SpaceX.com. And with liftoff in about T-minus 7.5 minutes from now, let's take a moment to learn about the Falcon 9 rocket on your screen. Now, to give you a sense of scale, the rocket supporting today's launch stands about 20 meters taller than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, France. It's named after the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars and gets the number 9 after the number of Merlin 1D engines at the base of the rocket. Now,
chill has started.
What you can see in that foggy view on your screen are the 4 key parts that make up the rocket. The first is the first and second stage, as well as the inner stage in between, as well as the fairing at the very top of the rocket. Now, the first stage is the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that you can barely make out there, and that's what we refer to as the booster. Those 9 Merlin engines do the bulk of the work to get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the thinner parts of the Earth's atmosphere. For today's mission, it will be flying a southern trajectory along Florida's eastern coast, which may make it flight visible from the ground there. At about 2.5 minutes into flight, it will separate and make its way back down to
RP1 load complete.
Back down to Earth. We did just finish stage 1 fuel loading. And again, the first and second stages will separate, with the first stage targeting a landing back on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. Now, for those of you keeping track, today's mission does mark the 7th flight for this particular booster. And on top of the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, which connects the 2 stages and houses the pneumatic pushers that allow the first and second stage to separate during flight. Then on top of the inner stage is the second stage, which will take the 40 spacecraft to their eventual destination in orbit. You may want to watch the velocity gauge that'll show up on the bottom left of your screen to see how fast we're going when stage 1 separates, and then how fast when we shut down stage 2. You'll see that stage 2 actually contributes more velocity than the first stage. Now, right now, the spacecraft are enclosed inside the large nose cone at the top of the rocket. This is called the fairing. The fairing's job is to protect the payload inside until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing halves will separate to expose the satellites to space. Now, today we're flying a new fairing, which you might be able to tell as it's much cleaner
for a strong back retract
than the sooty first stage, which has flown many times before. We are currently just about T-minus 4.5 minutes from liftoff. The vehicle is healthy and we're currently working, no issues. You may have heard that we finished stage 1 and stage 2 RP1 loading, and stage 1 liquid oxygen loading will finish a little over a minute from now at T-minus 3
strong
minutes.
Back retract has started.
Heard the call out that the strong back has begun retraction of the transporter erector. You can see those clamp arms below the fairing opening there to allow the transporter erector strong back to pull slightly away from the Falcon 9. Now, again, the transporter erector is the structure that provides liquids, gases, electrical connections to the second stage, as well as air conditioning to the payload fairing. You might be able to hear the pops and hissing sounds, and that is from propellant loading, as well as the launch mount and strong back that the propellant is going through. You can see that strong back slowly reclining there from the Falcon 9. As a reminder, you're watching the webcast for Transporter-4, which is our 4th dedicated rideshare mission to date. The payloads continue to look healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. We should be finishing stage 1 liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
There it is. We just finished stage 1 liquid oxygen loading. And in about a minute here, the stage 2 liquid oxygen should wrap up as well. We do load liquid oxygen in as late as possible so we can keep it as cold as possible so we can load more of it into the booster. You might be able to hear that it is a busy morning here on the factory floor here in Hawthorne, California. We're about 10 seconds from the end of stage 2 liquid oxygen loading.
Stage 2 lock load complete.
There's the call out for finishing up liquid oxygen loading. Those white clouds that you see coming from the booster are venting from the transporter liquid oxygen line. They're on your right. That's totally normal and expected. In about 30 seconds here at T-minus 1 minute.
Gas closeouts have started.
At T-minus 1 minute, Falcon 9 will be in startup. The first and second stages will begin pressurizing for launch, and the internal flight computers will have taken control of the countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9, Transporter-4, LD is go for launch.
LD has given that final go for launch. All systems are go. Let's watch Falcon 9 lift off.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mission is liftoff of Transporter-4. Pitching downrange. Stage 1 chamber pressure is nominal.
We're at T plus 40 seconds. Awesome views from Falcon 9 punching through the clouds. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower and we're currently
Power telemetry nominal.
throttling down in preparation for max Q at T plus 1 minute and 12 seconds. This is where the stage will experience the maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
There's max Q. Everything is looking good with stage 1 trajectory. Beautiful view of the clouds in the background there. In just about a minute, we will have 3 events coming up in pretty quick succession. There's MECO, which is main engine cutoff, stage separation, which is when the first and second stages separate, and SES1, where that single MVAC engine on the second stage will ignite, carrying...
Start of MVAC engine chill.
You heard the call out for the start of that MVAC engine chill prior, getting ready for that second engine startup. Really cool plumes from Falcon 9. We're under 30 seconds to main engine cutoff.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
There you heard and saw those three events happen back to back: main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second engine startup 1. You can see those grid fins deploying on the first stage there. In just a few seconds, we should have
Fairing separation confirmed.
There's that confirmation of fairing separation. You can see the two fairing halves have separated from the vehicle, exposing the 40 spacecraft to the vacuum of space. Now, today's mission marks the first flight for both of those fairing halves, and we will be attempting to recover those from the water once they fall back down to Earth. Now, we're currently in our first of 3 MVAC burns. Now, this first burn should last until about T+10 minutes. And the next milestones will be the first stage booster's entry burn. So Falcon 9 executes an entry burn to slow itself down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Without this entry burn, relying on just the atmosphere to slow down Falcon 9 would put unnecessary strain on the rocket's structure.
Vehicle is following a nominal trajectory.
The Transporter-4 mission, again, is SpaceX's 4th dedicated small-sat rideshare program mission and the 12th mission of 2022. SpaceX is targeting at least 3 dedicated rideshare flights to sun-synchronous orbit per year, and we also offer opportunities to ride to orbit on our Starlink missions, which launch every couple weeks or so. Small sats can ride to space on SpaceX's Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, as well as Starship in the not-too-distant future. You can see on those live views from the first stage on your left that Falcon 9 is equipped with 4 hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage, and stage 1 is using these grid fins for steering as it makes its way back down to Earth. Second stage is looking good on the right there in the middle of its first burn, the first of 3 burns. Those white puffs of gas that you may occasionally see from this first stage are from the attitude control system, and those are nitrogen gas. That's nitrogen gas that's coming out and helps with attitude control of the first stage as it makes its way back down to Earth.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
We're about 3 minutes from the start of our stage 1 entry burn. Again, this is a 3-engine burn, and there are 3 engines in a row on the first stage, which will light up to slow the vehicle down as it enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Vehicle continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
If you are just joining us, we did have a successful liftoff of the Transporter-4 mission, which is SpaceX's 4th dedicated small-sat rideshare mission and 12th mission of 2022. On your screen are live views from the first and second stage, with the first stage making its way back down towards the Atlantic Ocean to land on our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, and the second stage on your right in the first of 3 planned MVAC burns. We're about 2 minutes from the start of that stage 1 entry burn, which is about a 20-second burn that slows that first stage down as it enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Acquisition signal, Bermuda.
Now, for today's mission, the stage 1 landing burn will follow under a minute after the end of our stage 1 entry burn. And that'll land the first stage on our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions. And to put the deceleration of the landing burn into perspective, around 60 minutes or 60 seconds away from landing, the first stage is moving about 2,000 miles per hour.